Hey there everybody, this is Jacob Tucker from the Story team, and in this video I'm going to show you how to interact with our proof of creativity protocol using these smart contracts directly. So in a previous video, I showed you how to do this with the SDK. I showed you how to mint an NFT, register it as an IP asset, create license terms, attach license terms, create derivatives, etc. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to do that with these smart contracts. So a bit of setup here. This is a repo I have on my computer. This repo is also available if you go to the Story Protocol / Story Protocol boilerplate. I'll include a link to this in the description. I'm going to be working off of this file here. So all the code that I'm going to be using or coding in this video is already completed and available at this link. So if you want to skip this video and go right to the code and copy and paste it, you absolutely can. You can also clone this repo directly. This repo also has a bunch of test files that are individual tests for all the functions that we're going to be going over today. So in this video, we're going to be going over registering IP, attaching license terms, creating license terms, etc. I have an individual test for each of those in separate files. So in 0_IPA registrar, you can see how to register IP, and there's multiple tests associated with it. In 1_license terms, you can see how to create license terms, and there's a test associated with it. So you can view those, but in this video, we're going to stick to the example.sol file and combine a couple of those functions into one to show you real applications of this, I guess in a real setting. There also is a example.t.so file, which will test the code that we create today to make sure that it works, that I'm not fooling any of you. So we'll be using this as well. Okay, so what I've done is there's going to be two challenges today. The first one is going to be to mint and register, create terms, and attach. The second one is to mint license token and register derivative. Now, I'm going to start with the first one, and just to show you the rest of this file, we have some basic imports we're going to be using, and I'll explain all those in this video. We also have a bunch of variables set up. These are just going to be the pre-deployed contracts that exist on Story that we're going to be interacting with. So you can see in our constructor, all that we're doing is passing in the addresses for these already deployed contracts that live on Story that are going to be helping us register IP and all that kind of fun stuff. And these addresses are coming from the test file. Now, you may be a bit confused here, but it's actually very simple. These addresses that I've listed here are coming from our documentation. So if you go to our docs, you scroll down on the left here, click on Deployed Smart Contracts, and click on the Odyssey tab, you can see all the addresses that you will need. So the first one is the IP Asset Registry. This is what's going to help us register IP. You can see this is under Protocol Core IP Asset Registry. So here we go. We're under the core. This is, and we can scroll down to see the IP Asset Registry. Here it is, 0x28E59, and you can see that 0x28E59 right here as well. So these are the addresses that are going to get passed in to the new instance, the new example instance right here, and that is, again, this contract that we're going to be coding in. So again, all these addresses are coming from the test file, and they're all pre-deployed contracts on Story. The only one that is not pre-deployed is this simple NFT contract. So the reasoning for this, or the reason why we need this NFT contract, is because when you mint when you register IP on Story, what you're actually doing is you're taking an NFT that's minted and you're registering that NFT as an IP. And that NFT represents the ownership of that IP asset. So if I create Pikachu, or I'm the one that created Pikachu, right? I would mint an NFT for it, register it as IP, and then that NFT, as long as I hold that NFT, I have ownership over that IP asset. It gives me ownership of the IP asset. And what's cool is you can transfer that NFT or buy and sell it all the same as you would any other NFT. So you can buy and sell ownership over IP on Story. So this NFT contract is what we're going to be using to mint an NFT and then register it. And you can see that right here, actually. It's a very simple, very, very standard OpenZeppelin ERC721 that just takes in a name, a symbol, and then has a public minting function here. And that's about it. So let's just dive into the code now. So mint and register and create terms and attach. Let's just get coding. And if you see me glancing at the left side over here, it's because I am cheating. I have the code over here just to help me so I don't mess up. This function, again, we're gonna mint an NFT, register it as IP, create license terms, which I'll explain, and then attach them to our IP asset. This receiver is going to be the owner. We could also call this owner, whatever makes more sense to you. the owner of the IP asset that we're creating. So first of all, let's just say token ID equals simple nft.mint to this contract. Now, I will explain in a bit why we're minting to this contract and not the receiver. I will explain that in a bit. It won't make sense yet. Then we're going to register this NFT, this newly created NFT, as an IP asset. So we're going to say IP ID. Now, an IP ID is basically just the identifier for an IP asset. We're going to say IP asset registry dot register. We have to pass in a few things here. The first is the block ID, which is the chain ID, which is just block.chain ID. The address of the NFT contract that we're registering. So this is obviously address of simple NFT, and then the token ID that we're registering as well. So again, we're taking the NFT we just minted and registering it as an IP asset. Now, what I want to show you is this IP asset registry. You can also view in our docs. On the left-hand side here, if you click on registry and go to IP asset registry, you can see that you can read more about it here. You can even view the smart contract if you want. So let's just go ahead and do that. Here is the IP asset registry contract. We can even look up the function register. Oh, here it is right here, function register. So you can see right here, it takes in the chain ID, the token contract, the token ID. All this does is registers an NFT as an IP asset, blah, blah, blah. So again, we're calling this pre-deployed contract on our protocol. All right, so now that we have an actual registered IP on Story, let's also attach license terms to it. So to take a step back here, one thing that Story provides is something called the programmable IP license. The programmable IP license is a real off-chain legal contract, just like any other legal contract that exists. We can actually view the text for it here, which is super cool. You can see, so if you go to our docs and click on that here link, you'll see this is the legal document that represents or helps facilitate creative IP licensing. So if we scroll through this legal document, you'll see a bunch of terms like territory, expiration date of the IP, attribution, so whether or not someone has to attribute your IP if they use it. Can someone create derivatives of my IP? And if we scroll even further down, there should be commercial use. So can someone commercialize my IP? This is essentially a template that has a bunch of terms in it. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that template to create a certain combination of the terms within. So we're going to say, you know what? We want to set commercial use to false. So we don't want people to commercialize my IP. But we do want people to be able to create derivatives of my IP. And so what we've done is we've taken this legal document, which is a bit complex, and we've put it on chain in the form of a struct. It's literally a struct that exists on chain, and we can see that here. It's a struct that exists, and there's a bunch of variables like commercial use, derivatives allowed. We also saw expiration, right? All these exist on chain in our contract, so it's as simple as passing in, false for commercial use, and then attaching it to our IP asset, right? So we make it much simpler on chain, or we make it simple for you to attach terms to your IP all on chain. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to create a new license terms ID. Now, again, just to make this as simple as it can be, license terms are just a combination of the template. So the template in this case is the programmable IP license, right? This is the template, the contract, and we're going to take the terms within, like commercial use and transferability, and set them to actual variables so that we basically end up with a certain combination of those values, and that's the license terms. So the license terms ID equals the PIL template, which just represents the programmable IP license, otherwise known as PIL, and we're going to say .register license terms. Now in here, what we could do is we could say commercial use false, expiration 0, etc. But one thing that we have to make things easier is something called flavors. So if we click on the left here under the PIL and click on flavors, flavors are popular examples or popular combinations of the PIL to make it easier for you to make decisions, basically. So we have non-commercial social remixing. This is automatically attached to every IP asset upon registration. So honestly, or technically at this point, after we've registered, it already has non-commercial social remixing on the IP asset, which is really cool. And that is actually license terms ID 1. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll down to the commercial remix, which again is a set of terms that are predefined for you as a helper, but there are certain fields you can set. So there's certain, like parameters that you can change, like commercial rev share. So the commercial rev share represents what is the percentage, if someone uses my IP, what percent of their revenue do I want? Do I want 10% of the revenue, etc.? what royalty policy do I want them to use, or do I want to use? And I'll go over that in a bit too. So again, the flavor is a set of preset terms that we can customize a couple of them. So what we're going to say is we're going to say pill flavors, which we import at the top, dot commercial remix. And again, commercial remix is this flavor, just to make it easier for you. But you can customize all of them if you want. You don't even have to use flavor. It's just a helper. And we're going to say the things that we can customize are the minting fee, which we're going to say is 0. We don't want people to pay to initially use my IP. We only want them to pay a percentage of their revenue. Then we're going to say commercial rev share is 10%. So we can't just pass in 10 here. We have to pass in 10 star 10 star star 6. This will actually represent 10%. Now, this may be a bit confusing. The reason for this is because, so if we go to the royalty module on the left here and click on IP Royalty Vault, you'll see that each IP asset has 100 million royalty tokens associated with it, right? Each royalty token represents 0.0001% of that revenue. So if you hold one royalty token from an IP asset, you are due 0.001% of their revenue. So because that's 100 million, or we want to pass in 10 million here to say, you know what, we are due 10 million of their royalty tokens, so we get 10% of their revenue. That's how we handle revenue share on Story. So then we can pass in, we also have to pass in a royalty policy. The royalty policy in this case is going to be the royalty policy LAP, okay? This we only have 2 royalty policies on Story. We have liquid absolute percentage, LAP, or liquid relative percentage. Each of these, and I won't dive into this too much, please feel free to check out the docs, but these just define how revenue is actually shared and what that percent means. In LAP, 5% means 5% of every single child that comes after it. In LRP, it's a relative percentage, so 5% of the following asset, 10% of the following asset, etc. But in this case, we're going to use LAP as our royalty policy. And then we also have to pass in currency token. Currency token is the token we want to use as revenue. So what revenue can they collect, and what revenue do I, and what revenue am I going to be taking from them, right? In this case, we're using SUSD token. Now, right now, the token that you use for a currency token has to be whitelisted by Story. It can't be any ERC20. If you go to deployed smart contracts and click on whitelisted revenue tokens on the right here, you can see under Odyssey, which is the testnet we're using right now, there's SUSD and wrapped IP. We're going to be using SUSD in this case because it's just easier to use, and you can actually mint some directly from StoryScan. So you can put in your address here and an amount, and you can actually mint test SUSD. Please keep it relatively small if you're going to do that and test with it, just to make it better for other developers. So we're going to be using SUSD, and it may be a bit confusing because SUSD is listed under the mocks here. But just like all the other contracts, SUSD token is also pre-deployed on Story. So if we go to the testing file right here, you'll see that this is the address for it. Again, it's the same address you'll see right here. Okay, so that's the address that we put right here, and what gets passed in the constructor, and what is represented right here as well. Okay, awesome. And the only reason that we have SUSD here is because it doesn't come in the Story Protocol GitHub package that we install. Okay, so now that we've specified that, now we actually have license terms ID. And so now we're going to take those license terms we created and attach them to the IP asset. So we're going to say licensing module dot attach license terms IP ID. The address is the pill template that we're using. Again, there's only one pill template on Story. Actually, I believe that so the programmable IP license, the way to explain this is Story supports any type of pill template. So a pill template is essentially a set of terms, right? In the pill, it's the terms you see here. But Story technically supports any pill template, any license. But right now, the only one that is whitelisted is the pill. So the only option here to pass in is the pill template. In the future, we see a system where we would support, just like the pill is tailored for creative IP use, maybe someone want to create their own template for specifically music creative IP. And so they could add their pill template to the protocol, but right now the pill is the only supported template. So we're going to pass in the address for the pill here, and then the license terms ID we want to attach. And remember, the license terms ID is just a set of terms that have been created from this pill template. Okay, so now we've attached the license terms to the asset, which is really cool. And just to go back to this, so why did we mint the NFT to this contract? The reason is because only the owner of an IP asset can attach terms to it. And the NFT, or the person that owns the IP asset, is the one who owns the NFT. So in order for this contract to be able to call attached license terms, it must have the NFT. So at the end here, once it's attached to terms, we can say simple NFT dot transfer from this contract to the receiver, and then the token ID. So we're transferring the token ID from the contract to the receiver so that the receiver now owns the IP. All right, awesome. So now we have completed this part of the tutorial. So actually what I'm going to do is, just to test it out, let's comment out this function, go into example.t.sol, and we're going to comment out this function in here, and we're just going to test that first function. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and test our first function here, hope that everything compiles and goes well, and that the demo gods are with us today. All right, so it passed. Awesome. So it passed on our first try. So again, that minted NFT, registered as IP, created license terms using flavors as a utility, attached the license terms to the IP, and then transferred the NFT back to the or to the receiver so that it now owns, or the receiver now owns, that IP asset. Awesome. So now let's go back to this function here. All right, I'm just going to space this out so that, I'm just going to space this out so that it's easier for us to do this together. All right, cool. So now that we've done this, what we're going to do in this next function is say we want to mint a license token and register derivative. So what the heck does that mean? Well, let's say on Story we want to create a remix or a derivative of someone's IP. Let's say that I'm the owner of Pikachu, and someone wants to create an image where it's Pikachu wearing a hat and doing a dance, right? That's a remix of my IP. And so in order to create a remix of someone's IP asset, you have to first get a license to use the original work, right, in order to remix it. What that license is on Story is a license token. A license token is essentially a license that allows you to use the IP asset that it's minted from, that the license token is minted from, in order to use that IP. So a license token itself is a ERC-721 NFT, which is really cool when you think about it, because you can imagine that you can buy and sell this NFT, this license, on secondary marketplaces, or do some cool DeFi activity with the license token, which again gives you the right to use that IP. So you can, there's a lot of cool DeFi scenarios around buying and selling licenses, or the ability to use an IP. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to mint a license token from the original or the parent IP so that we can register our child IP as a derivative. And what actually happens what happens behind the scenes is the license token, when you make a derivative, gets burned to register your child IP as a derivative of the parent. So you could, if you wanted to, hold the license token and just say, you know what, I want to take your Pikachu, your exact Pikachu picture, your drawing, and I want to put it on a t-shirt and sell it, as long as that license says I can commercialize it and whatnot, right? I could just hold the license in my wallet, that license token, and sell the original. But if I want to create a derivative, like Pikachu with a hat on it, and register that as a derivative, then I have to burn the license token in order to register it as a derivative on the protocol. And when I say register as a derivative, it's a literal link that exists in the code that links it to the parent, so that things like automatic royalty flow can happen between the child and the IP asset. So for example, when someone earns revenue on the child, it gets automatically flowed up to the parent. And again, all based on the license terms that we specified here. So what we need to do is, in order to make a derivative, we first need to create an IP asset, because we're going to be creating a derivative. So just like we did above, we're going to say child token ID equals simple NFT.mint to this contract. Okay? And again, just like we did above, we're going to say child IP ID equals IP asset registry. And we already did this above, so I'm just going to quickly go through that. Okay? So now we have a child IP asset. And so what we want to do now, in order to link it as a derivative of the parent, we need to mint a license token. And so let's do that now. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to say uint 256 license token ID equals licensing module mint license tokens. And there's a few parameters we have to pass in here. The first is licensor IP ID. This is simply just the parent's IP ID. So we pass that in right here, right? We're creating a derivative of this parent IP ID. The next part is the license template. This is the address of the pill template. Again, this is the only template we support, so that's what you're going to fill in here, and that's where the license terms that we're minting the license token for are coming from. So then license terms ID is again, the license terms that we're passing in right here. Theoretically, this would have been created and attached to the IP in a function like this before, all right? So then we're going to say the amount is 1. Now, this is just saying we want to mint 1 license token. You could mint more, but remember, let's say there's a minting fee, right? So let's say this minting fee was like 5 or something, 5 SUSD. Then it would cost 5 SUSD for each license token you mint. But in this case, it's just 0. Then the receiver is addressed to this. So we're going to mint the license token to this contract so that this contract can burn it to register as a derivative. And then royalty context. Now, when you're dealing with a pill, this is just 0. I believe that the only reason we have this here is so that if we ever support future pill templates or future templates, then you would pass in some extra data here, but not right now. Okay, so now that we've created the license token, we're going to use that license token to register our child IP asset as a derivative of the parent IP asset. So we're going to come back to this in a second. Don't think I'm skipping it. So we're going to say licensing module.register derivative with license tokens, like that. And we're going to say the child IP ID is the child IP ID that we created above. The license token IDs is going to be an array of license token IDs we haven't created yet, so don't worry about that. And then royalty context, which we don't need for the pill template. So we basically need to construct an array of license token IDs. So we'll do that in Solidity, of course, up here. This is all in Solidity. I don't know why I said that. License token IDs equals new UN256. It's just going to have one slot in the array because we only have one license token. Token IDs at 0 equals the license token ID that we minted above. Okay? So that's going to get passed in here. And now, at this point, this child IP asset is now linked as a derivative of the parent. Okay? And then lastly, we're going to transfer. We're going to say simple NFT. I'm just going to tab this because we already know this. We're going to transfer this child IP asset to the receiver here, who is the intended owner. Okay? So we're going to save that. We're going to go back to our example file. We're going to uncomment this, and we're going to run this code and hope that it compiles. All right. It is compiling now. And if everything goes well, then we will have, minted an NFT and registered it as, made a IP of it and made it a derivative. All right. So it worked. Awesome. So again, this test function, unlike the one up here, which all this function is doing is just testing that we can mint an NFT, register as an IP asset, create terms and attach them. This function is going to use that same one, right? It's going to first mint the parent and attach terms to it and create terms and attach terms to it, and then use the second challenge to then create another IP asset and register it as a derivative of the parent. Now, that is the end of this video. You'll probably realize I didn't go over any royalty examples just because I didn't have any examples of that in this file. But if you want to learn more about royalty payments and collection of royalty from the terms that are specified, you can go to 5_royalty.t.sol, and you'll see here that we actually, in the setup function, we first create a derivative of a parent IP asset. So we have a child and a parent. And in those terms, we specify 10% revenue. And so down here, we simulate paying the child 10 SUSD and then collecting 1 SUSD right here. So we then collect 1 SUSD below. So again, it's just a simulation of the child getting paid and the parent collecting 10% of the revenue based on the license terms. So anyways, I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please join our Discord and ask away. I'll be happy to answer questions there. Or you can comment on this video as well. So thanks everyone so much, and see you in the next one. Bye.